where Mrs. Belevaska will discuss the program REACT, which is linked to housing, and Mrs. Tsilivarak, who is going to discuss the Center for Migrant Integration, again from the Municipality of Thessaloniki. So hopefully at the end we'll have enough material to have a very interesting conversation about where we stand and where we're going in relation to integration in Greece. Okay, so we will start with the first presentation. I will say a couple of words about my colleague. So Ms. Faye Veverido is a PhD candidate at the Department of Law at the University of Sheffield and a research associate at the Southeast European Research Centre. She holds an LLB and an LLM in international law, and she has been involved in various projects on migration, including Horizon 2020 projects, as well as this World Bank funded Integrate project. So the floor is up to you, Faye.
Thank you, Alexandra. Could you please share your screen with our presentation, because I have a problem with my connection here. I would like to thank you all as part of SEERC as well for being here. It's our honor to have all the other panelists. And of course, I would like to thank the audience for such a great interest on our event. I would like to start with something that Alexandra said. She said that we will see where we stand and where we're going. But since we're talking about integration in particular, I think that it would be good to start with some introductory notes on where we started before we go to where we stand right now. So the concept of migrant integration in national legislation is not new. In 2005, we had the first mention of social integration in the Greek legislation. But back then, we were talking about a conferral of rights, of participation rights to third country nationals who shall respect the founding values of the society in return. We have progressed a long way since then. In 2014, social integration was understood more as a smooth transition of country nationals to the Greek society by becoming right bearers and duty bearers as Greek citizens are. So here we had mention of Greek citizens also in this whole process of social integration of migrants. A groundbreaking, let's say, understanding concept of integration was introduced with the National Integration Strategy in 2019, where social integration was envisioned as a process built upon reciprocity, interaction among the host population, the host community, and the migrant population, and with an ultimate goal of interculturalism, and it was tailored to the needs of the Greek society. At least that is what is stipulated in the National Integration Strategy. This was a very highly anticipated document, the National Integration Strategy. The previous one was introduced in 2013, but it was criticized for not being actually implemented. And that cast doubts upon the new document as well. So professionals and stakeholders were a bit skeptical about the actual implementation of this document. Could you please proceed to the next slide, please? Thank you. This was a document that was actually drafted. Some of the skepticism was well-founded. This document was drafted without contribution from the refugee and the migrant community. And this was repeated by several organizations as it was a bit detached from the people that were supposed to serve. This is actually even more important if we think that one of the main pillars of integration, as described in this document, is the civic participation, so participation of migrant and refugee communities to decision-making when it comes to their own rights and status in the country. And in this particular document, migrant integration is actually understood as a two-tier envision, at least as a two-tier procedure. The first part of it, the first stage, is reception of applicants of international protection, and the second one is the integration of beneficiaries of international protection and migrants into the Greek society. This gains more significance if we take into account the fact that so far, and this is something that came out from the primary data collection that we conducted in the framework of this project as well, this is actually very important, the first stage, because as we found out, most asylum seekers or applicants of international protection do not understand that this is actually a first stage of a whole integration process. The reasons why will be explained later, some at least opinions that we've heard on the field, but it is important to bear in mind that integration does not start at the moment of receiving a positive decision from the asylum service. So this is something that was mentioned, and it was something that was underscored in this document. But having a prior experience, there is doubt still, and it remains to be seen whether this document will actually be simply a theoretical construct, a wishful thinking and guidelines of what we maybe should do, or actually a structured plan with a time frame and a time schedule that we can follow and actually lead to results. National integration strategy was introduced in 2019 July, and after that month, coincidentally or not, there was a turning point in migration governance, arguably at least in the country. In the summer of 2019, we had political advancements in Greece, as most of you might know. We had the elections, a change in the government, and also that was followed by tensions in the area of Greek-Turkish borders during the second half of 2019 and following in the beginning of 2020. So the evolution of the legal framework at that moment resulted in tighter laws and more cumbersome procedures. In the end of 2019, the new law codified the international protection framework, and that was a very positive development. But at the same time, there was a lot of criticism regarding the introduction of reforms that would lead to lower protection of asylum seekers and refugees, such as limitations in employment, in access to employment, and in access to housing. A striking example here is the fact that the new law introduced the 6-month grace period for newly recognized refugees in order to exit the accommodation programs, but also, since this is something that has been very much discussed, I would like also to mention the access to employment for asylum seekers. So the new law introduced a limitation in access to employment by imposing a minimum time of 6 months from the application in order for asylum seekers to get access to the labor market. This was not welcomed by the majority of organizations and legal representatives in the country. And this is because this is actually against the whole idea of integration. And it is said to promote assisted integration rather than autonomous living of asylum seekers. As a second and a final note on the fact that we entered this new era of stiff laws and a different, let's say, approach to migration governance. The role of NGOs has now become more limited, and it is expected to become even more limited in the future. This was made clear by the limited funding of the STIA2 program, the accommodation program for asylum seekers, that is now going to be under coordination of the state. But also, it was something that was mentioned and criticized with the adoption of the new law on NGO registration. This law was adopted, then it was revoked, and then it was adopted again, a new one, with the same criticism by European actors as well. And the criticism focused on the fact that the law fails to maintain a balance between transparency, achieving transparency in the NGOs' actions and doing, and at the same time respecting the right to association. So we were very lucky in this whole context to be able to discuss with some key actors in the field of migration in the country. And we have some very interesting findings regarding the current state and the way forward to migration integration. So Alexandra, you may continue.
Okay. So I will share with you now some of the major opinions that we found from the discussions that we had with key actors working on the field. So one of the things that we have to highlight here is that the recent legal amendments have brought up some changes that have been drastic in relation to how we understand assisted integration. So one of the things that was widely discussed during our interviews was that the perception, the dominant perception among both asylum seekers, but also refugees and some people working in NGOs was that the concept that previously existed based on aid-dependent living of refugee populations would be something that would continue. So the central idea here was that many people still carry the idea that beneficiaries will continue receiving support indefinitely, something that the new laws obviously brought to a halt. As a consequence, due to this long time aid dependency that pre-existed, quite a few refugees and asylum seekers themselves did not find a particular reason to make more efforts to integrate in society. So that was definitely one of the views that was shared among the stakeholders that spoke to us. Another important point was the role of the UNHCR in migration governance and what would be the next day after the departure of the organization, because obviously Greece has been living the status of a state in emergency since 2017. So the departure of global migration governance bodies such as the UNHCR is imminent. So in this respect, this is viewed by many as being premature. The new program, STIA2, one of the characteristics that it has is that it includes a sharp reduction in the budget. meaning that there is going to be reduction in the staff that are able to be employed in order to assist integration and migration governance in general. And this is one of the worries that exist among NGOs, how or whether actually a smaller number, a decreased number of people working on the field will actually provide, whether they will be able to accommodate the needs of those participants. Some of the things that were striking during the interviews was that quite a few NGOs went back to the matter of information. So it was widely discussed that there is a lack of information, and that this lack of information could be based on not having information in the language of the migrants, or not disseminating information in general widely, especially when it came to new policies that are being adopted by the Greek state. Although this is one of the points that the new migration strategy is making, that information would be disseminated widely towards these populations. There are also some problems that come, as Faye already said, after somebody is granted asylum, or after somebody is partially integrated. So, for example, we have referred already to the fact that refugees need to leave their house. They have 1 month to depart from their houses after they are granted the status of refugee, regardless of having a job or not. That creates, obviously, a queue of homeless and impoverished people. On the other hand, we do have asylum seekers that actually find a job, who stop being entitled to receive cash assistance, but still eligible to keep their accommodation. This is done because finding a job obviously is seen as a step towards integration in the eyes of the Greek state. Nonetheless, obviously, due to high numbers of high unemployment percentages in this country, being integrated, especially when it comes to employment, is not the norm. It's rather the exception. Also, returning to the point about active citizenship, this has also been highlighted as being lacking in this respect. In addition to the element of interculturalism, in reference to cultural mediators, interpreters, and the cultural events, etc. So these, in essence, were the main points that linked back to gaps that exist at the moment, and that will obviously be a problem in the future. Now, a couple of words on the impact of COVID-19 on integration, as that actually covered most of 2020. So with COVID-19, we had two main consequences, two types of impact. On the one hand, we had delays when it came to processes and services, and on the other hand, we saw that some policies that were already decided upon went ahead. And obviously for specific reasons, because there were policy priorities there. So in the first case, in delays in services and processes, we can see, for example, the suspension of the right to claim asylum. And that was done twice during 2020. Once it was done in March, and that was linked to geopolitical tensions with Turkey. And the second time it was done in May 2020, linked to the COVID-19 pandemic. As an example, when it comes to policies that had already been decided upon and they went ahead, the government went ahead with them. I'm referring again back to housing and asylum refugees having to evacuate the place in 1 month. And that was done obviously during the pandemic. The idea behind that, of course, was the congestion on the islands. Now, when it comes to health, the major issue that we found out that existed was actually access of refugees and asylum seekers to medical services. Of course, that was a sector where all Greek citizens had restricted access. I'm talking in past because we basically looked at the first wave of COVID-19, despite the fact that we're again in the second quarantine now. So I guess the same issues probably persist now. So the lack of, for example, interpreters would mean that these people had a hard time communicating or communicating over the phone and having perhaps medical appointments or renewals of medical assistance and so on and so forth. When it comes to the asylum process, we did see both delays and suspensions. I mentioned the suspensions before, but in general, there were delays down to the decrease in the number of staff in the asylum services. When it comes to on-site services, there were two things that actually created problems. The first one is the reduction in staff, and the second one is services moving online. So in the first instance, with the reductions of staff on site, it means that there were delays when it came to providing services. Certain services that were provided remotely, so in the second instance, services moving online, sometimes that caused frustration among beneficiaries. The instances were mentioned where state response on-site was insufficient, especially when it came to health provisions. Again, the idea of the lack of information, especially in the language of migrants, came up. And there were some instances reported of lack of will to obey in the restrictions, or even inability to grasp the severity of the pandemic due to obviously the very traumatic personal experiences these people had. In relation to housing, of course, looking for a house during a pandemic was not something that was very easy to do. And as a last point, what was mentioned was stereotypes and misperceptions. So migrants being labeled as health bombs, and policies targeting them and severely restricting them, especially when it came to movement. And this is it with this part. So we kind of like outlined, we mapped the situation as it stands at the moment with several parameters, which some of them are going to be covered from the next participants, and others that we can discuss as we go along. So I will ask now Mr. Kostas Vlachopoulos to share his part of the conversation. Kostas Vlachopoulos is a junior research fellow at the Hellenic Foundation for European and Foreign Policy, also called ELIAMEP, and he has been working in migration. He's also a PhD candidate in political science at the University of Glasgow, with his main research interests including issues related to migration, security, and discourse analysis. So we'll hear a little bit more on integration policies in Greece inside the EU framework. Thank you. Mr. Vlachopoulos. You need to unmute.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for the invitation today. It was a pleasure for me to talk to you in this really interesting meeting. The presentation was really fascinating. So thanks for the data that you gave and your view on integration of migrants in Greece. I will share now my presentation. Is it clear now? Do you see the presentation?
No, it's not.
Not
It's
yet.
not shared.
Not yet.
Just a moment. Just a moment. Now, good.
Yes.
Right. Today I'll talk about integration in Greece. I will give first some historical background about the Greek political spectrum and how it has treated migration all these years. I'll give also a historical background on how Greece moved from a migrant sending country towards a migrant hosting country back in the 90s. We will see that Greece, although it has been done a very good progress actually the past few years towards integration of asylum seekers and refugees, we will conclude that there is a big room for development here. Many things are missing from the integration strategies that have been conducted and issued the past years. We will also give the current political, economic, and environmental developments about integration, and about integration and migration in Greece. And we will see also some reasons and a theoretical, let's say, context about why integration is necessary and beneficial in the Greek case. And finally, we will give some recommendations for further steps in the future. Yeah. Greece, as I said before, there was a major change in the early 90s. It got transformed from a migrant sending country to a migrant hosting country very, very quickly. Throughout the 20th century, Greece has been majorly a migrant sending country, but since late 80s and early 90s, Greece gradually transformed into a migrant hosting country, and this was the result of many reasons and many factors happened. Political developments happened in Europe, and the major one was the dissolution of the socialist regimes in the Eastern Europe. And as a result, migrants from Albania and other countries tried to enter Greece back in the day. We witnessed a huge increase of migration flows back then, and the fact is that Greece was largely unprepared for these flows. It didn't have any reception system back then, even more, let's say, an integration system. And this resulted in Greece treating this issue as a temporary one. There was majorly a focus on deterrence policies, instead of integration. There was a slight change in the early zeros towards a more inclusive context about how to treat migrants, but still it was a fragmentary one, and we will see details later. Just to give a number to have a more clear picture, we had back then around 900,000 third country nationals residing in Greece, according to the 2011 population census. And the conclusion here is that a comprehensive integration policy is still missing. Yeah. Greece, a little bit more of a background. Greece got its own national strategy for integration only in 2013. This was the first one. It provided, as Ms. Prodomiadou mentioned before, some good measures, but they were mainly ad hoc measures and fragmentary regulations. The current national strategy for integration got ratified in 2019 after 2 years of consultation. A general comment about these national strategies is that they might be, let's say, progressive texts that provide good solutions towards a more integrationist policy in Greece, but they are mainly general texts and do not have a specific goal, and also they do not specify exactly the distribution of responsibilities to the implementing bodies. Also, there are no specific forecasts for the financing of the actions described in these strategies. And as I said, of course, they include some progressive and quite advanced provisions on integration, but there are some shortcomings that we'll just show. Then we will move on to examine the general framework and some current developments very quickly, because I know that the time is limited. We are sure now that after so long time, after nearly 30 years that Greece accepts migration flows, that migration should not be treated as a temporal phenomenon. This is not only for the Greek case, but for the EU case as well. In 2017, 22.3 million or 4.4% of the EU 28 population residing in the EU were non-EU nationals. And almost 71 million people are currently forcefully displaced, with 26 million being refugees and almost 42 million being internally displaced in their countries of origin. Since 2015, Greece has been really at the forefront of migration flows mainly from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq to the European Union. Some features here, for example, in the country received 43,000 irregular migrants in 2014, and we see here a very, let's say, strong migrant flow that came into Greece in 2015. We saw that back in 2015 we had nearly 1 million people that entered Greece, and let's say this number got decreased in the following years. We see that in 2016 we had nearly 200,000 migrants, and we see that also in 2019 we had only 46,000 migrants entering Greece. The main, let's say, development in the years after 2015 was the closure of Balkan passageway in the early 2016, and of course the EU-Turkish agreement, the EU-Turkish statement in March 2016 that contributed to trapping a number of asylum seekers in the Greek mainland and northeast Aegean islands. This fact, along with the reception conditions in Greece, make the discussion for a mutually beneficial integration of third country nationals in Greece even more important and necessary. As now the case is that Greece is not, let's say, a country that people just go through to go to other countries in the EU. Is not, let's say, a stepping country towards their final destination in the EU, but it is a country that is obliged to host a quite big number of third country nationals in its soil. Greece's reception system has been under big pressure the past years. Between 2013 and 2019, Greece has received around 300,000 asylum applications, and more than 45,000 applicants have been granted international protection in the first degree of asylum application, and more than 53,000 have been rejected, with the vast majority of applicants coming from countries like Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq. Back in 2019, around 70,000 first-degree asylum applications were still pending. And according to the latest data, in September 2019, there are around 96,000 refugees and asylum seekers around 30,000 of them residing in the islands and 65,000 in the mainland. As I mentioned in my introduction, I will give now, let's say, theoretical background on why integration is necessary and beneficial in the Greek context. I will focus on three main factors. The first one is a more political one. The second one is a moral factor that pushes us to discuss with a more, let's say, consistent framework about integration. And the other is a more, let's say, economic factor that could allow us to discuss integration further. By forwarding integration processes, there is a chance to combat a conservative set of policies and securitize discourse towards migrants. The fact is that Greece's political spectrum all these years has been really characterized by an obsession to a security logic towards migrants. We have seen many positions and many statements of the political parties, even mainstream political parties in Greece, saying that migrants are the scapegoats. They are responsible for everything bad happening in Greece, and this fact is really interesting when we see it, especially in the years of the crisis, of the financial crisis in Greece. Also, recently we have witnessed many statements by government officials that saying that Greece should not be a country, a welcoming country for migrants. Greece should make the life of these people even more difficult, so they do not have to choose Greece for a destination country. All this securitized framework is really on the opposite direction of the integration policies, and along with
just to remind you about time.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. I will go through very quickly. Yes.
Thank you.
These factors actually will create a fertile ground for reactionary policies and xenophobia, and the comprehensive integration framework will bring a strong barrier to xenophobia and racism. The utilitarian argument mainly is about the positive agenda that we could take from integration. For example, if according to the European Commission, the demographic aging of the European continent, and even more so of Greece, is really a topic that we should discuss. And the migration flows mainly consist of young people could bring some solutions to this demographic and aging problem of Europe and Greece. The last one is the moral humanitarian argument. We have the responsibility as a Western society for providing assistance to suffering population, and this is not just a legal obligation, but it is also a moral one when it comes to the values for social equality and justice. Some features here about how Greeks think about integration. Very quickly, we see that the majority of the Greeks are not well informed about immigrants and integration processes. I know I do not have time. Here some very important features about the what Greeks think about integration and which are the important factors according to Greeks that will allow immigrants to integrate. We see that speaking Greek and paying taxes and having the educational skills to find a job, these are the main important factors that Greeks consider about integration of migrants. And finally, the some things about the next steps and recommendations. I have here four, let's say, general topics that Greece should put more effort on developing a more inclusive, let's say, framework on integration. The first one is housing. The second one, labor market, education and citizenship. Ms. Prodromiadou said some interesting points about them, so I do not need to now to talk further about that. Okay, finished. Here I have the references for this presentation. We have conducted good research on ELIAMEP on this topic. Thank you very much, and I'm available for questions later.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vrachopoulos, for all these very interesting points. So let's move to Mr. Konstantinos Kousaxidis. He's an area project coordinator in IOM, and he will talk to us about the program HELIOS. Mr. Kousaxidis is also a PhD candidate in migration studies. He holds a master's degree in history and political science and a BA in Balkan studies. He joined the organization in November 2016 after serving as regional coordinator for the Ministry of Migration Policy, overseeing all refugee accommodation facilities and emergency response in northern Greece. He has also worked as a researcher in the University of Macedonia and the University of Thessaloniki, and as project officer and manager in the Hellenic League for Human Rights. His works on migration have been widely published in English, Greek, and Turkish. Finally, Mr. Kousaxidis is a member of the Hellenic League for Human Rights and the Research Center for Minority Groups. So the floor is open to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Prodromiadou. Thank you very much for pronouncing my name correctly and for having me here today. If I may share my screen. I can't right now find the presentation. Give me a moment, please. For some reason, I can't see my presentation in the what I can share with you.
It might take a moment, perhaps, but we don't see it yet.
Let me just take the opportunity to repeat to everybody who is joining us today that you can ask questions in the Q&A function. So please send us the questions during the speeches, and we are going to introduce the questions and answer them afterwards.
Okay. Apologies for this. Well, I'm going to try to briefly go through what it is we do in HELIOS, Hellenic Integration Support for Beneficiaries of International Protection, which is a project implemented by IOM Greece. And it's actually 5 projects in one. It started back in June 2019 and is implemented under the current funding scheme until 20 February 2021. The current donor is DG Home EMAS, and we collaborate with implementing partners that you can see. What we try to do is to promote the integration of beneficiaries of international protection into the Greek society through integration courses, accommodation support, job counseling, integration monitoring support. I'm going to go through all this in more detail in a while, and the organization of sensitization events for the host community. Who's eligible to be supported by HELIOS? First of all, one has to be a beneficiary of international protection, that is, hold refugee status or subsidiary protection status, be recognized from January 1st, 2018 onwards, and a small caseload of 2017, and be residing in one of the official accommodation schemes at the moment of notification, also in official shelters or housing programs supported by NGOs and local authorities, and a small group of international protection beneficiaries who are residing as registered in the camp. Lastly, we hold a 5% eligibility buffer for to support extremely vulnerable beneficiaries of international protection recognized from January 1st, 2017 onwards. Our process starts from the enrollment. We host information sessions in the integration learning centers that we set up around the country and in accommodation sites and hotels of IOM's Philoxenia program. And the beneficiaries of international protection who choose to participate in HELIOS, they are called to sign a declaration of participation. And of course, as integration is a two-way effort, enrollment in HELIOS is absolutely voluntary. As of now, we have enrolled in the project 22,759 beneficiaries who are supported by HELIOS, which we built based on four to five actually pillars. That is education, accommodation, employability, and integration, split into integration monitoring and sensitization of the host community. This is the journey a beneficiary of HELIOS takes into the program, starting from the moment that he attends the information session, that he is followed by the accommodation support that we provide in various ways, participation in the integration courses, support from our job counselors and integration monitors, and also the possibility to certify the level of knowledge in Greek language attained through the courses, officially through participation in the examination of the Center of Greek Language. Starting to come into more detailed information on accommodation support component, what we do is actually we have groups of people groups of colleagues who rove the accommodation sites and Philoxenia hotels around the country to inform beneficiaries on their eligibility, beneficiaries of international protection, on their eligibility to be supported by HELIOS, and receive the provisions of the accommodation support component, namely accommodation workshops, handouts, support with issuance of formalities such as the tax registration number, the social security number, opening a bank account, unemployment card, etc. Identify, if possible, an apartment, a house that matches their criteria, that meets their needs from our pool of available apartments that we have uploaded in a website called HELIOS. Through interpretation support, in order to facilitate the communication of the two parties, the property owner and the beneficiary of HELIOS, through provision of rental subsidies, and finally, through the transfer of the beneficiaries and their belongings to their new house. This is a sample of the handouts that are disseminated to the beneficiaries with guidelines on how to issue certain prerequisites. And these are the amounts that each beneficiary, according to his or her household size, is entitled to, in split in a one-off disbursement of a contribution for startup of independent living and a monthly disbursement for up to 12 months for contribution to the rental costs. And here you can see that this is a proper moving, right? Beneficiaries move into the new house with the support of colleagues. What we have done so far in this component is almost 9,000 people have benefited from the project rental subsidies from August 2019 until last Friday. That is because that information is updated on a weekly basis. Regarding the integration courses, these are provided in the integration learning centers that we have established in various locations around the country, with 5 of them in Athens, 3 in Thessaloniki, and 1 in Katerini, Kilkis, Chania, Iraklio, Ioannina, Tripoli, Karditsa, Larissa, Trikala, Livadia, and Sitia. And the addresses of the aforementioned integration learning centers, all this information is also available on the IOM website. The integration courses consist of 360 hours of courses, 3 hours per day, every day of the week, 5 days a week, of which 280 hours are for Greek language and 80 hours for soft skills with mandatory attendance. Here's what the classroom looks like, and to facilitate childcare arrangements in the household, we provide the classes in 3 shifts, and also we operate a recreational space for children in every integration learning center, where a beneficiary can leave his or her children to play, to be occupied while he or she attends the courses. And that's the fun part. Interestingly enough, so far almost 4,000 beneficiaries have initiated the enrollment process, and 2,200 are currently participating in the courses. Almost 1,000 in in-person classes and 1,200 in e-learning classes that we rushed into building during the first period of restrictions due to COVID. On the employability component, we provide individual job counseling, facilitation of certification, like driving license and ECDL certificate. We cover the cost for this. Organize job fairs, and we facilitate the integration into the labor market by networking the beneficiary with potential employers. The job counseling sessions are structured like this. The first session is for the skills profiling, then orientation and information, the personal action plan, individual action plan, employment navigation, and a follow-up session. These are some of our activities, the job fairs that we have organized so far. It was not easy with COVID. And lastly, we have a sample of 770 beneficiaries whose skills have been profiled by the colleagues in 2,756 individual sessions. Integration monitoring, I can describe it as an effort to empower the beneficiaries to take care of their own issues and business vis-a-vis the authorities, administration services, NGOs, etc. So far, 5,100 individual sessions have been conducted for a number of 4,155 beneficiaries, including all family members included. You can see that the types of support provided in these sessions. I won't go into detail on this. And this is how one can communicate with us through our, first of all, the website, Facebook page, the specific email account, and the WhatsApp numbers that are operating in almost all of the beneficiaries' languages. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kusaksili. That was a very interesting and thorough presentation. So we will now go to the local governance level. And I would like to ask Mrs. Maria de Velasca, the REACT project coordinator of the Municipality of Thessaloniki, to do her presentation. Maria de Velasca, apart from being the project coordinator for REACT, is also a lawyer and an accredited mediator, Thessaloniki Bar Association. So please, we're all ears.
I don't know if you can hear me. I cannot start my video.
Okay, we can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Let me just give it one more try. It doesn't open for some reason. I don't know if I can share my screen. I'll try to share my screen so you can see my presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we can see you also.
Perfect. One moment, please. Okay. Can you see my my screen now?
I think it might take a little while, like it did with the others.
No, it didn't start sharing. So there is this green button. When you push this green button, it shows you what you want to share. You have to choose and then push share.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay, I cannot manage, so I will just move on, and I can send you my presentation, and also a small video that I would like to share with you all. Okay. Since the beginning of this massive flow of refugees and immigrants coming to Greece in 2015 and 2016, the municipality of Thessaloniki has taken a series of initiatives.
Excuse me, Mrs. De Velasca, would you like to send it by email so I can share it?
Perfect, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
I will do that right now.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, I'll take the floor for a moment, since you are waiting for that, because there are a couple of questions for the program HELIOS, and if Kostas would like to answer them. So I'm reading one question. Kostas, can you hear me? Okay, one question is this: the feedback from refugees we work with is that HELIOS is inaccessible due to a lack of support in finding accommodation and work, and the fact that subsidies are only received after they had made rental payments themselves. Do you think that HELIOS may be reformed?
I can answer now.
Yes, please, yes. Until we...
I think that there's another one that's also for ELIOS, the previous one. Well, currently we have served 9,000 beneficiaries. We have established a network for the beneficiaries and various means of communication in order for one to be able to reach out to us if we don't manage in reaching out to them in the sites in Philoxenia hotels, that is, and Estia as well, beneficiaries of Estia. But the ways of communication are all in the HELIOS part in the IOM website, and perhaps sometimes the response may not be so swift, possibly, but record is they will keep track of the efforts of someone to get in touch with us, and we call back. That is in the case someone selects the WhatsApp phone numbers to reach out to us. Also, the email address is receiving a lot of attention. That is in regards to access. Accommodation, indeed, not all of the beneficiaries use our services in finding their next accommodation. We have many people who fill the required, who submit to us the required documents. Without our support, they have managed to find a house, and they do it on their own. But there are a lot of people who use our services, and to give you an example, our website, ELIOS-PT, usually has around 250, 300 listings at all times. So available options are there as well. Regarding employment, which is a difficult part, especially in the current economical setting, with the unemployment being at the rates that it is at the moment. Of course, there's no commitment that our efforts will be fruitful. But, and the COVID, to be honest, did not help at all. But there are a lot of beneficiaries who, with our support or without our support, have managed to land a job and are currently employed. I don't have the exact data to share with you, but this number is not small. I think I covered this question.
Yes, yes.
Do you want me to go to the next one or later?
No, let's move to the presentation. Now, do we have the presentation?
Yes, we do. Okay, so Mrs. De Velasco, whenever.
Okay, thank you. So the acronym REACT stands for Refugee Assistance Collaboration Thessaloniki, and it's named like that for the Municipality of Thessaloniki and its partners, but it's part of the ESTIA program. The ESTIA program is a program for accommodation and also a basket of services provided to the beneficiaries apart from the accommodation component. The accommodation component has two basic pillars. One is the Philoxenio shelter, which has 28 places for beneficiaries which are extremely vulnerable, and therefore they cannot live independently in rented apartments. And also it has the rented apartments pillar, which has 893 places for vulnerable people who can live independently. In total, the program has 921 places right now, and we're trying to increase them for next year. So you can see a number of initiatives that the Municipality of Thessaloniki has taken since the beginning of the refugee crisis. And in 2016, we had the program REACT, which started from then, and it continues going on and being implemented until today. Thank you. So as I already said, we have established 921 accommodation places. And regarding the basket of services that we provide, it's an extremely wide basket of services. It includes interpretation, psychosocial services, medical assistance, assistance in schools, accompaniment services, apartment maintenance, and of course, we are helping asylum seekers and our beneficiaries in general in whatever else they need. The program REACT is not implemented only by the Municipality of Thessaloniki. The Municipality of Thessaloniki is the basic partner and has the coordination of the project. However, in the project participate also the Municipality of Neapolis-Ikes, the Municipality of Kalamaria, Anatoliki Development Agency, and a number of NGOs like Praxis, Arsis, and IMHA. Can we move on? Thank you. And also, perfect. Here we can see in the previous pictures, you can see a number of our apartments in the municipalities. So what they do is not the same. The Municipality of Thessaloniki, as I already told you, has the main coordination of the whole project. It has the team of translators, the economic team, and also the coordination team. In all other municipalities, we have the social scientists, And also we have people who go to the apartments and watch for the state of the apartments. As I told you, REACT program is not an integration program, but it has strong components of integration. So in our try to help people and promote integration, what we have done is we have established 6 community centers, each one in every partner. So our beneficiaries can visit a community center and ask themselves, take the initiative to go there and ask themselves whatever they want, if they want some help or whatever else they need. Can you move on to the next page, please? Okay, so regarding IMHA, the tutors of IMHA organize and implement different activities, participation in summer camps for our underage beneficiaries, and other sports activities. In these activities, the beneficiaries also come together with Greek children. So we enhance the language learning and we help them integrate. Also, the municipalities support the social integration by the social scientists, as I will tell you later on. And ARSIS has the Center of Youth Integration and the Child Protection team, which helps also to enhance the parental role of beneficiaries and supports children and parents if they have any kind of problem regarding their school attendance or if there is some other kind of problem related to children in the family. Here you can see some activities in the child protection of ARSIS and in IMHA. And you can see the country of origin of our beneficiaries. They come from Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Lebanon, and other countries. And also you can see in the next table the numbers of age groups. So as you can see, the large majority of our beneficiaries are children. And also here you can see some tables regarding the legal status, the social services and the formalities that we try to help our beneficiaries with, AMCA, AFIMI, OAED, bank account, and the rate of the school enrollment. As soon as POCs come to our program, the first thing we try to do is to enroll children in schools. Also, as I already said, Praxis is one of the NGOs which implements the program. And since we have many people with extremely serious health issues, the health advisors of Praxis manage everything that has to do with their appointments in hospitals, their medicine, or anything else that has to do with their personal hygiene or personal health. Here you can see some performance indicators regarding the houses that every partner of the project has leased, the occupied apartments, the places in each one of the partners, the hosted beneficiaries. And as you can see, since 2016, we have accommodated 2,606 people. The program faces a great number of challenges. People that enter the program, they do not know how to use energy resources. So we try to help them with that in order to be able to survive later on when they are independent. We try to enhance school attendance and integration in the neighborhoods, and also generally the independent living. The issuance of 4 and +2 formalities concerns the bank account, AMCA, and the other components that I have already mentioned. All these challenges have become even more difficult to cope with because of the pandemic of COVID-19. So the basic challenge that we face now is to keep a steady and continuous flow of information to the people, so that they are timely informed for all the measures taken by the state. And the second thing that we have to face, and it's very serious, is to help people and especially children and parents be able to attend school through the platforms that Greek children use. Therefore, we are trying to teach them how to use these platforms in order to be able to attend their classes. Thank you for listening to me. I will try to send you also the video with our activities for 2020, so you can share it with everyone who participates today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Velasca, for all this information. In relation to REACT, there is a question about REACT as well, which we'll get back to after we finish. So now I would like to pass the floor to Mrs. Evangelia Tsilivarrakou from the Center for Migrant Integration of the Municipality of Thessaloniki. Mrs. Tsilivarrakou is a social worker and coordinator of the center since September 2017, a member of the Association for Social Workers of Greece, and finally, she has professional experience in child protection, disabled people, elderly people, and people with mental health issues. So, the floor.
Good evening to all of you. I will share the PowerPoint. I will try. Oh. Is it okay? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, everything is fine.
It's fine.
Okay. I will start with a brief presentation of the center and its practices. I can't see you, sorry. Oh, excuse me, I lost you. Okay. At first, I would like to say that the center started its functioning on September 2017 as a branch of the community center of the municipality. This program is funded by the European Union through Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs. And it started functioning in order to fill the gap to the local society as a front desk of the Central Social Service of the Municipality of Thessaloniki. Excuse me, I can't see you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And we can see your screen also.
So, as I said, we are the front desk of the municipality's social service, and we belong to the Department of Social Policy and Gender Equity of the direction. So our team has a social worker, a psychologist, a legal and an intercultural mediator that speaks Greek and Arabic. And also, as for the communication with the beneficiaries, we have support through UNHCR's and Metadras's interpreters. Also, I should mention that interpreters by REACT program helps us many times. So our target group are migrants, European citizens, asylum seekers, and beneficiaries of international protection, meaning refugees, who they can come to our center to be informed about organizations in the city, their rights, services, and take support in 3 levels: social, psychological, and legal. So we receive these people, we inform them, and we try to support them as best as we can. Of course, with collaboration with other services, public or private. And we also provide services that aim to improve the standard of their living and social integration. I will give you some examples. Okay. For example, mostly our legal advisor supports people with their transactions with public services, such as issuing social security number, tax number, unemployment card, and renewal of this card. We do the renewal through our office, a bank account, registration at school, residence permits, asylum cases, etc. This support includes all the preparation of the documents, the communication and mediation to the services, with interpretation where needed, and as I said before, information on benefits, rights, educational and entertainment programs and actions. Also, we collaborate with other services, starting with municipal services, such as the social market for people that are under this need, the social dentist, social pharmacy, and other municipal services in order to satisfy the individual needs of the beneficiaries. Often it's a basic service, the applications for allowances, for social allowances, such as the minimum guaranteed income, housing and birth allowance, disability insurance. These allowances are for the cases that have residence permit. They have gained their residence permit. So, except the application and the standards that are needed, we try to prepare people to be aware of not only their rights, but also their duties as for the allowance. Let's say, for example, every 6 months they have to be aware of renewing their application, their demand, or declaring any serious changes that happen due to their status, their location, family status, etc. As for asylum seekers, we mediate with referrals for accommodation, either on public shelters, like municipal homeless centers, but this is only for people, for single people, not for families. As for families or single asylum seekers, we connect them and we do all the procedure in order to reach a STIA program through the Ministry for Migration. Also, as for recognized refugees, we give them the information office where they can find managers of HELIOS program in order to be informed how to gain this program. Another category that reaches often our office are the undocumented people. It's a majority, unfortunately. As for them, we inform them for basic services in the city in order to get some food, to find free doctors. And as for vulnerable, we mediate with the collaboration that we have last 2 years with the asylum service, the local asylum service, in order to book appointment for them and share their demand for asylum in Greece. Some populations that often come to our office come by Albania, Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Georgia, countries of Africa such as Cameroon, Congo, Morocco, Libya. Okay, in general, we try to help all these all the needs of all these different categories, target groups that reach our office by integrating them with the local services and ways to be supported. That's from me.
Thank you very much.
General.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tsilivaracou. So in essence, we covered all groups, all migrant groups, including refugees, asylum seekers, but also people who are migrants but don't belong to the above categories. Okay, so in the remaining time, we will we'll pass to questions. I will start with the 2 questions from the audience, and then we have some for you, and hopefully we'll wrap up at 6. So the first question which I see here is, how can we assure that the cash amount requested by the landowner from the beneficiary is the actual amount paid from the family?
I suppose this goes to me.
Yeah,
right?
Probably.
Well, this is a technical question that I'm very happy to reply to. Well, first of all, we do not accept any proof of payment in cash. So we only accept transactions via banking system. In addition to that, one to receive the rental subsidies has to provide the staff with a printout of the taxisnet submission of a rental contract in the portal of AADE, which is accepted by all parties. Then we need, for each of the household members, a document providing their status as beneficiaries of international protection, and namely the asylum seekers card stamped with pending issuance or of residence permit or the Greek residence permit. A document that presents the details of the personal Greek bank account of the beneficiary to which the rental subsidies will be transferred, that must clearly indicate the IBAN number and the name. It's too technical. I'm sorry if I'm confusing you, but you asked. So this document must present the IBAN number and the name of the adult member of the family on whose name the lease agreement is contracted, and a banking printout verifying the landlord's IBAN account. Then for each monthly disbursement, we need, before releasing the next payment, we need certified confirmation of a bank transaction that is printed on the beneficiary's request from an officer at a banking branch, clearly indicating rental contractual details, or electronic payment confirmation printed by the beneficiary, and again clearly indicating rental contractual details. I am sure I covered this one.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to the second one. What are the 6 community centers supported by REACT?
Okay, the 6 community centers are the premises of the partners of REACT project. So as I told you, the REACT project is implemented by the Municipality of Thessaloniki, which has a community center in Monastiriou Street, the Municipality of Sikes, which has another community center, etc. Each municipality or NGO has premises where the project is implemented, and these are the community centers of REACT.
Thank you.
Okay. In lack of other questions, I will now take the time to ask mine. Now I see there is one more, but please let me proceed with mine and then we can go back maybe. See this one. So I have one question to address to REACT. And this question has to do with the community centers, but not what or where are they, rather than whether they're actually used or visited by beneficiaries. And the reason why I'm asking this is that I think it's very interesting that these community centers are places where beneficiaries can go on their own initiative, as we described. So this is actually, in my opinion, a step towards achieving some kind of autonomy in a supported accommodation program. So could you please tell me from your own experience if this is something that actually beneficiaries take advantage of and they make use of?
Of course. Most of the beneficiaries, after staying some time in the program, they start visiting the community centers. There are some very vulnerable cases, and these people need more time to proceed and start visiting the community centers in their own initiative. But we try to enhance this kind of communication by, for example, calling them and making appointments in the community center instead of visiting their house. Because we think this is very, very important in some of the community centers, for example, in Arsis and IMHA, which are visited mainly by children. All beneficiaries that are interested in participating in the activities of these centers go there. So yes, mainly they do visit the community centers.
That's so great to know, thank you. I would like also to address a question to
Faye, you are muted now for some reason.
Sorry, I thought I opened my microphone. Okay, so again, thank you, Ms. De Valeska, for your answer. I'm very glad that this is actually a service that is promoted and used by the beneficiaries. Now I would like to address a question to the HELIOS program, so to Mr. Kousaxidis, and I would like to ask about the people who are eligible for the program. Please correct me if I'm wrong. People who are eligible are recognized refugees who have exited from other accommodation programs, so from the site or STIA or Philoxenia. And my question is this: what is going on with self-accommodated people, so people who were not registered in any of these programs? Do you think that these people were actually self-sustained, or were they the people who could not, for some reason, reach the accommodation programs as asylum seekers? And could there be an let's say, expansion of the program to include these people as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, all people who receive status while accommodated in one of the country's accommodation reception schemes are eligible for HELIOS. We understand that there is also a caseload of people who have been outside the system. Okay. To be honest, given the fact that HELIOS was designed to serve two purposes. First of all, the integration of its beneficiaries to enhance, let's say, to give them a boost in their first efforts to integrate into the Greek society, and second, to decongest the reception system. So now, to be honest with you, it is our understanding that we are putting more effort on the first part. Our plan is to put more dedication to the first part of this commitment. And this is something that possibly can be discussed. Of course, you know that HELIOS was designed in collaboration with the Greek government, but we're open to every suggestion, and so are our counterparts in the Ministry of Migration and Asylum. It's something to be discussed for sure. Yes. Unfortunately, I cannot confirm at the moment that they will be eligible to receive our support, but it's something that concerns us as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Let's address this question from the audience, and then I would like to ask a policy-oriented question to Mr. Vlachopoulos, and we can close with that. So the question is, unfortunately, it's probably a follow-up. Unfortunately, many recognized refugees who received the decision from the AS expressed their concern about the landowner requesting furthermore cash in hand after the bank transaction has been successful.
So this is me again.
Yes.
All right. To be honest with you, we have a very trusting reporting system. So as far as I know, no such information has reached us until now. But if you have something to report, or if you could encourage the people that you are in contact with to report on this, we will take every action needed on our side. So that's as far as I can go.
Thank you. Before we move to the policy question, there is another one for the Center for Migrant Integration.
Unless, Alexandra, there is no more questions from the audience or the panelists, of course. Okay, I will proceed, and maybe if there's another question, we can follow. I would like to address a question to KEM, so the Center for Migrants. I would like to ask whether KEM is linked in any way to the Council for Migrant Integration that exists at municipality level, and if we actually see an active participation of these populations in decision making, at least at local level, of course, to the best of your knowledge. And I would like also to ask whether second generation migrants, in lack of a better term, are involved somehow in these centers, if they're sharing their know-how, their personal experience in order to enhance provision of services and ultimately integration in the country.
Okay. As for SEM that you asked, of course, we are in a close contact every time they have their discussions. People are getting informed about the discussions of SEM, and we try to connect them and make it popular to them, because many of them are not aware of that. What I didn't mention before is a radio show funded by and supported by KEM office, our office, that also gives them the panel and the opportunity to be informed about issues that are concerning them. We have this radio show every week, every Saturday, and they have the ability and the panel to discuss and express their ideas and needs. Your second question was about migrants of second generation.
Yes, second generation migrants, and if they are involved somehow in...
Yes, you mean, make it, please help me.
I mean, migrants that have been in the country, that they were born in the country of migrant parents.
Yes, of course. We also see them often seeking mostly access to the labor market and information about their rights and how they can apply maybe for any financial public support. But in general, access to labor market is a big need and a very often demand for all people that come there. I hope we have more programs in the future, such as language courses, Greek language courses through KEM, and more actions in order to involve them and support them in a way.
Okay, thank you very much. It's good to know.
Okay, thank you. So for a last question linked to policy, Mr. Vlachopoulos, you mentioned that the discourse is securitized in Greece, and that of course is linked back to xenophobia, and it does create hurdles when it comes to integration of migrants. What do you think could happen at the state level in order to start talking about integration of migrants in a different way? I mean, we know that that migrants are being utilized even for geopolitical reasons, as we have seen since the beginning of the of the year, we know that they have been labeled as health bombs and intruders and so on and so forth. You mentioned a lot of these things. What do you think that could happen at the state level? And do you think that NGOs, for example, could be also part of it?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. My feeling is that migration debate in Greece lacks mentioning the positive agenda around this phenomenon. Political elites and political parties, even other institutions like the church or other central government institutions, face migration in a securitarian logic. They prioritize the negative agenda, the linkages with criminality, that migrants take the job from native Greek citizens. As you mentioned before, there is also a tendency to stigmatize them in relation with the COVID-19 situation that we are living. So my idea is that we have to move towards a more positive agenda on migration. We have to prioritize the positive challenges that we have that we have in front of migrant issue. Let's say we can say that, for example, in Greece, that has a really difficult demographic situation, and the aging people are much more than the younger ones. We could prioritize that if we can really employ with a very consistent and inclusive integration program, if we can employ these people or a part of these people, we could provide at least a solution in this program, if not a solution, let's say a better management of this problem. Of course, I understand that we are living in let's say weird times. It is difficult to go out to the people and say during this crisis, and also before in the previous crisis, the economic crisis, that we have to integrate more migrants in the labor market and all this. I understand this, but I also believe that the NGOs and the state, if they can collaborate and say a few things about the positive things that we can take from migrants living in our society, that could be a major step towards integration.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vlachopoulos, and thanks to everybody who took part in this very fruitful and very interesting conversation around the integration of migrants. So we can close the session here, and I really hope that at some point we can see you face to face as well, and not just online. Thank you very much for your contribution. It has been very, very fruitful.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.